Welcome to another fabulous episode of Write and Shine, Shining Through Your Words, author series, proudly brought to you by Write and Shine Media House. My name is Maggie, and I'm absolutely delighted to have you here. We are almost nearing the end of this incredible author series, and I'm just so delighted to have my next guest here. Rachel, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself and also tell us a little bit more about this little guy that is your profile picture.
Um, I am a thriver of child sexual abuse. I was fortunate to land in a place that got me my education, so I have a college master's in accounting. But I discovered that I have another talent, and have been able to start writing and things along those lines. And we'll talk about a couple other successful things along this journey as we speak. Maggie. This little guy is Chester, and he is my support pet. And I can take him anywhere I want. And he kind of keeps me grounded, which is great. But it set my life on a whole different level about how I could help others recover, not just not just kids and adults into their next phase of their life, but to help rescue pets as well, because they don't have a big as voice as we do. They can just bark, but this little guy right here has helped me move to the next level in recovery, and so I want to share him with the world as well.
I love that so much, Rachel, and that's why I kick off, asking you more about him before we even dive into you, because the two are so parallel with each other. And I've seen
Yes,
in my
ma'am.
life as well, adopting a dog. It's like you said before we hopped on for the recording, is that we think we save them, but they save us. Please share more about your backstory of how Chester entered your life.
My veterinarian called me one Sunday afternoon, and she indicated to me that she had a little guy there that needed me. And I suspect that he was on his way to a shelter. And she thought, I'm going to give it a shot. So she called me, and I went down to her office, and he was in this big giant crate. Well, Chester's a little Yorkie. He was like 3 pounds, in this big giant crate. It's like the big giant world around him. And he barely moved. He had been so neglected. He was unable to get to his food because there were other animals in the house, and the owner wouldn't protect him. And so he naturally lost weight, lost his hair. He doesn't have a lower jaw, bless his heart. And so he really was struggling to just survive.
Wow.
And I brought him home, and he laid in the bed. He wasn't even jumping up and down, the excitement of a new place. And so I could tell, this little guy's been through some stuff, and so I'm going to help him get better. And so I did. I hand fed him every 4 hours. He eventually learned how to take his food from a little mat that's got ridges in it so that he can kind of, lick it up. But imagine being challenged that way and being so close to losing your life, because he was close to death. And resurrecting him and teaching him how to be a dog, Maggie, was such a blessing for me. um, it does parallel a lot of victims' lives about where they are and what they're trying to do with themselves. And he just had so much desire to live that he worked with me. I worked with him. But like you said, I thought I rescued him, but I know in my heart that he rescued me. He taught me how to be strong, and how to be tenacious. And I have a big cat in the house, and so he fought with the cat to get his own food. And I helped him, and he learned. And so that's what we've got to do for each other, especially for those who have been saddled with a sadness in their early life. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Is he's got his own little book coming. He's got chesterschallenges.com, and so he blogs, and I put some thoughts out there for him, and we have fun with it. It's the offset, Maggie, that helps me through the work that I'm trying to do. He's fun. He jumps on me. He'll come and jump on me, and he just smiles at me like, am I making you happy, Mom? And
No.
it's such a blessing
It
knowing
is.
that he lives to make me happy.
It's so special, and that unconditional love that pets have for you is just something so healing to spend time with. As I also see my animals as very therapeutic and grounding. to spend time with them. And I absolutely love that you are writing a children's book about Chester, which leads me to my next question, Rachell. You have mentioned that you were a victim of abuse. If you can share a little bit more about your journey, and also what I'm sensing is the narrative like Chester, like it's like almost you lose yourself when you go through extreme trauma like that.
Yes, ma'am. I was 12 when it started, and just reaching that point in my life when things were starting to explode for me. I ran track. I was a gymnast. Um, I did cheerleading. I mean, things were just really just moving down the road for me, and I was just really a happy, happy child. And then all of a sudden, this event occurred in my life that continued for 6 years, and it was abused by my father. Um, he got me pregnant when I was 16, and took care of that best way I can say it at this point. But everybody knows what that means. He wasn't going to be defaced, and so I survived that. Um, my mom took me from the home, and they worked through their situation, and he promised it would never happen again. And I was free for about 6 months, and then all of a sudden it was a lot worse. There was more horror and more abuse, and so finally at 18, I just walked out. I was
Yes.
like, I'm done. I'm of age. Let's get this world rolling, because I knew what it could be like. I had enjoyed a lot of things, and my personality doing the cheerleading and the track and the gymnastics, and I was an honor student. It covered up a lot of what was going on behind the
Mm.
scenes, and so I think people don't recognize, this kid's doing great. Can't possibly be anything going wrong here, and that's one of the reasons why I'm speaking out. Is there's so many ways that um, child victims can mask themselves, and a little word from earlier, mask themselves to not let that uh, information out. And it was the threats from my father that kept me silent. He told me that if the secret came out, that it would kill my grandmother. And so he held me hostage with those kinds of threats. And our family would be destroyed. And what 12, 13-year-old kid wants to think that their grandmother died because they opened their mouth. So
Exactly.
the secret was kept. Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
I probably, based on what I know about young girls that I've worked with now, I probably could have done it differently. I didn't. I can't regret that. Got to let it go and forgive. And I've forgiven my father. But at the same time, the symptoms were not there, for
Yeah.
it, for lack of a better word. My mother was smarter than that. She knew, and she did everything she could. And I'm honored and blessed to have the mother that I have. So.
Wow. And I'm so incredibly sorry that this happened to you, Rachell. But, like I always say as well, I actually also published a book on trauma healing earlier this year, is we don't go through this for nothing. The beauty is when our pain becomes our purpose. And it does sound like you are on a mission to be a voice to those out there who does not even know yet that they can speak out.
Yes, ma'am. That's the joy in what I'm doing now. Is I got a law passed in the state of Tennessee here in the
Wow.
U.S., and it's for survivors of child sexual abuse. And when I discovered in the earliest of times, when I got situated in my own life, I guess the best way to put it, I came in contact with an attorney who said, "You want to change this?" And in the state of Tennessee at the time, an individual only had 1 year after they turned 18 to file against their perpetrator for damages and for the crime. And it was like, "Oh, really? A year? You don't even know where you are, much less what you're doing, and if you
Exactly.
want to do something like that, because your head is still spinning."
Yeah.
And so she did a couple of things, and we ended up going to the state legislature, and she taught me what needed to be done. And we actually, in that year, we had individuals at the state legislature here that didn't understand the situation, and they shot the bill down. And so, uh, 20 years later, no, 10 years later, um, I went back And the excitement and the joy when I saw every single vote in the House and the Senate was a yes was just
Wow.
unimaginable. And so, you know, we had lobbied, we had changed people's minds. We stood out in some of the subcommittee meetings for getting the law passed. And so it was, to me, it was change can be made and
Yes.
one person can make it. And so that's why I'm here, Maggie. I
Wow.
believe that that's my mission, is to get more things done for kids in other states and, you know, push this envelope, get people talking about this, paying attention to the signs and symptoms of what's going on with kids who are going through this, because it
Yes.
can be hidden so tightly that unless you really are have a good eye like my mom,
Yes.
you might miss it. And you know, getting help for recovery and healing for this as early as possible in life is the most important thing. And so, you know, talking about it, getting it out there, letting people know there's a law that helps them get money to go to school for their medical appointments. I mean, all kind of things that they can get assistance with because this law now has a statute of 15 years.
That's
And
incredible.
so,
That's
yes, ma'am.
incredible. Wow. And Rachel, I do want to ask you, like I'm thinking now, like my son went through a phase where he was bullied in school and he didn't talk about it. Like it's like there's
Wow.
this cloth of shame that that hangs around you when you are being abused. And like you mentioned, your mom was vigilant enough to recognize, listen, my daughter's out of character, and the same I could see my son is withdrawing, and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
that's my question, what can people be on the lookout for if they suspect something is going on?
Well, from what I understand, there were little things that my mom noticed that when I was at home, I was quiet, but when I was out at school, I was this like a different child, you
Wow.
know. Um, I was so outgoing and I was so motivated to be successful outside of the house that my character in the house, where I would go to my room, she wouldn't see me much. It was less risky for me to make a mistake and let the secret out. And so she suspected so highly that one morning on a Saturday, she came into my room and I was still asleep and she just nudged me a little bit. And she asked me the question, is your
Wow.
father hurting you? And in my slumber, waking up, the truth came out and there was nothing that I could do to stop it. And at that
Yes.
point, things in my life changed. And so, you know, she used every possible way to get to the meat of the problem and understand that, you know, it wasn't that I wanted to deceive her. It was that I was forced to deceive
Yes.
her. And that's the challenge, is you don't know what a victim is going through from the perpetrator to keep the secret, whether it's family, whether it's friend, whether it's, you know, uncle, whatever. You see a change in that relationship a bit. And knowing that she was smart enough to recognize what was going on and figure out a plan to get me to open up really, really means a lot to me. She really wanted to help me, and she did. Yeah.
That's incredible. And Rachel, tell us more about the book that we're talking about today. Why did you decide to write it?
Well, I had several events occur in my life and I wrote them down. And it started a little process of journaling because I was told that that really is helpful in your journey to recovery and healing. And so I did. I just started writing stuff down, and these were like my own thoughts. I didn't have to worry about somebody else getting them. And so I did this for a number of years, and along the way it was like, wow, this is, you know, this is coming together, whatever this is. And I just felt along the way it changed to, I've got to write a book about this journey. And so I wrote about everything. It was just a me. I never dreamed I was an author or writer or whatever. And I just kept writing. And at some point, the pieces started to put themselves together. And so what I did was, um, I would pray because I'm very faithful through all of this. I'll have to tell you one of the little short stories about how that all started and how I've maintained my strength through and in faith and through all of this to know that this is the guide and the direction that I'm supposed to be going. But what happened was I started thinking, well, if I wanted to organize this in some form, how would I do that? And so I would pray, and all of a sudden there would be that journal entry that I needed to put on the pages of a book. And my Lord gave those to me in the order that I needed them. Okay, because there was a bunch. And so through the Holy Spirit's guidance is all I can say. I mean, I feel it. I know that's what it is. Those pieces became a story. And as it generated itself, I may have changed a couple of things along the way, which is fine. But at the same time, my journaling is what provided the basis for what you see in front of you now. Um, I'm lucky because I don't know that I would have the detail and the wherewithal to remember all of these things in the sequence that they happen. Nobody reviews their life that way, right?
Yes.
And so I've just been very fortunate to be guided and to have this in front of us, to be honest.
That's amazing. And who is your ideal reader? Who should buy this book?
Um, Originally, it was to help other individuals who survived what I have done, to get them to the point where there's some messages in here about the importance of mental health care. I was able to find a very good doctor. He and I have spent many hours together talking about how to, what they call now, Maggie, is rewiring your brain, because
Yes.
it's not right when you get out of this kind of situation. And so you have to think about things differently. So I got myself a psychiatrist, and he and I have been off and on through the years, but originally it was 3 times a week, and I had to dedicate myself to that. I had to commit myself to, this is what I need in my life. And so it started there. And then he helped me find help at Department of Disabilities, where they were able to grant me some money to go back to college, which was a lifelong dream for me, Maggie. And I didn't even know if I was ready to go back. Um, so I went back and I got my bachelor's in accounting, and then they decided that I was still in such a fragile state. And I don't think I was, but it's up to them. They're the ones paying the bill. But I was able to get my master's because they knew that I wasn't ready to go back to work yet.
Yes.
And so I got my master's, and in accounting and computer science. And that day with my robe on, and recognizing and realizing one of my biggest dreams in life had come true, was just unimaginable to me. It's kind of surreal. It was like I did it anyway, you know?
Yes. That's incredible.
Yeah. And so then was the journey for the law. He just put me in a place where someone saw that we could make a change in my state for survivors, and she wanted to help.
Wow.
And she's anonymous in my book too, because she doesn't want to get credit for some of the things she's done in her life. But this woman put aside hours of her time to help us do this, and train me on how to change laws. And who knows, there may be more. But I did find out a week ago that somebody has gone and amended my law to
Wow.
include commercial sex trafficking. So now this 15-year statute is not just for survivors of child sexual abuse, but it's also for sex trafficking victims.
Wow.
So they now have a chance to, and I'm mentioning this on purpose because it's become such a big deal in the
Yes.
public now, is if you don't know what the law is, and you don't know there's help out there for you, then you're just squandering hours of time trying to survive. And for me,
Exactly.
I found out it was a 1 year and changed it to 15. But last week when I found out it was including the sex trafficking, I was just overjoyed, because now out there in this audience, those who hear, they'll know that if they are a survivor of sex trafficking, that they now have an opportunity to get restitution from their perpetrators. And this is huge, Maggie.
It
This is what's
is.
going to explode this for people who
Wow.
still feel isolated, and who still feel different, and not being able to express this thing that they should have no shame for. This is not their
Exactly.
fault. This
Exactly.
is, yeah. And so that's why I'm doing it, Maggie.
I
Is
love
I don't know
that.
how many lives you touch, but you just touch them and move.
And that's the thing, Rachel. Like what I love about your story is like this did not define you. this is not who you are, but this
Yes,
is definitely your purpose to help
yes.
others also heal from the scar. So we're not saying it wasn't, life altering, but it's like some people really use these moments as excuses not to move
Yes.
forward, like they dwell in their hurt. What
Hmm.
advice do you give other people that has gone through extreme abuse and trauma like you did?
Um, I think I may have said it once already. If I didn't, I'm going to say it again. Get the help you need,
Yeah.
whatever it takes. Put yourself out there. Know that you're not that person. They
Yes.
didn't define who you are. And if you step forward, others will too. I've discovered that if I just mention in any conversation, most of the time, probably 80% of the people that I speak with, there's something in their past, whether it's like your son, the bullying or child abuse or sibling abuse occurs, they just start talking.
Yes.
And it's like a relief to them that they can talk to somebody who understands what they've been through. And it happened last week. Young lady just started crying on me. And I was like, what's going on? And so, in my daily life, I'm touching
Mm.
people in a way that I never anticipated. And I hope that I can continue to do that every single day of my life because I could see the relief on her face
Aw.
when she realized that somebody cared enough to ask, what can I do to help? You
I
know?
love that.
And
I
so,
love that so much. And it's just, I think, the stigma around abuse. And it's like it was this taboo type of subject, even mental health.
yes,
These are the conversations we need to have. These are the conversations that does not, I don't want any shame around that when we talk about that because like you say, it's not your fault what happened to
right,
you at all.
right. I think that's the conversation that I see changing, and I want to be part of it. I want to
Yes,
be supporting of it. Is people with mental health issues, they may be cured of them, they may live with them the rest of their life, but knowing that they've sought treatment, that they have tried to improve their own space, doesn't
yes,
give us the right to degenerate or disintegrate their life because they're still in that space. They have to be able to process, learn, and understand that without that kind of support and health, um, you kind of stay in this dark place,
exactly.
and you you're in a situation where people, like even kids with autism or ADHD, they are brilliant individuals, and yet this stigma of something's wrong with them
Yes,
keeps them isolated from the world. And just to know that you've helped them understand that it's okay, that we want to help, that we want them to be better, and just know they want to be better too because inside they're hurting and they need someone who understands, you know, I can do better if someone will just slow down long enough in this world and reach out and help me. I'm doing that with a guy that I see probably twice a week now, and he's autistic. And he was in a situation where his mother was drugging him to keep him from being energy rampant. And that's sad
yes,
because she was not doing him any justice. And so his father came in and he got custody of that child. And that child he's making eye contact with me. He hugged me last week and he doesn't
oh,
hug very many people. And so it's just getting close to them and understanding that they're not. They're not so damaged that we can't help them
yes,
have a good life. And so, along the entire vein, Maggie, like you said, whether it's child abuse, whether it's autism, whether it's, bullying or other things, we need to reach out and help our kids. And we
agree.
need to let them know that we're there to support them. It's huge.
And also us as survivors, basically from this, it really is to be a voice like you, Rachel, to say, listen, this is what happened, but this is also on the other side of what happened, and also to live a life like your book says, where you not only
Mhm.
survive, but you actually thrive. And I absolutely love that.
I think it took that from my publisher. She's an awesome lady. It took that from her to realize I had moved past Survivor.
Yes.
That baggage is gone. I've said it by the street side and said, "See you later," and I've moved on to the thriving part in my life. And a friend of mine said the other day, "You're in chapter 3, Rachell.
Wow.
You're on the next level." And so it's inspiring to know that people recognize that there is a difference between Survivor
Yes.
and being in this place where, oh, I did this and it happened to me and da 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 da, da. And it's like, well, what are you going to do with that, And so
Exactly.
I've got people in my life that are helping me get past that and move on. And the law was just the beginning, Maggie.
Wow.
There's so much more coming. Yes, ma'am.
That is so inspiring. And Rachel, how can people reach out to you or buy your book?
I have a website. He is foreverwithme.com. And I think it's around where we are on the video here somewhere, or go ahead and stick it in the comments if you want. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, at author Rachell Freed, on those sites. And just trying to get the social word out. I'm working on a second book, and for myself, not Chester, for myself. And it's actually a second phase to, once you get settled, once you get normalized, I guess is the best word, because that's how I would term it. Is my life started being pretty consistent. I held some pretty solid jobs. They were long term. From all aspects of things, I had gotten to the point where I was a participating member of society.
Wow.
And that's what everybody expects of all of us, is to get to that point, so that we have a wonderful life, that we have a home and kids and all of the things that go with. And so, knowing that there's another level past where my first book goes, okay, and that I still have PTSD. I still have to be cautious of the individuals around me and make sure they're not negative. I have to have a positive circle, is what I call it, and know that you develop your environment and your surroundings to benefit your attitude and your mood, so that you don't have the backlash of those things that are kind of lingering, right? Is what this book is about.
Wow.
Pay attention to things that may pop up that you weren't expecting. And so there is a second layer to the recovery process, and I probably will always be in that. But the book's already, pretty much written. It's just a matter of putting it together. But I think it's to cope and to continue to be successful.
Yes.
My doctor said one time, he said, "You know why you're successful?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "Because you do everything with passion." He
Yes.
said, "You set the goal and you strive for it. You're tenacious. You want to be successful at what you're doing, and your passion carries you there. So find what works for you, and take it to the next level, because it's there. You just
Yes.
need somebody telling you and helping you understand, and you absorbing it and believing it. That lets you know that you can be more than, and make the right choice. Do good in your world. Don't take that darkness and motivate your own life in that direction, because there's some people who do that, like you said. Um, if you're dealing with alcoholism or drug abuse, that's a pretty sad place to be as a survivor. You know,
Exactly.
when I was in the hospital after my incident occurred with alcoholism, my attorney came and visited with my doctor, and he said, "Why hasn't she been to a meeting?" And he's like, "Because we're working on something more important." And he looked at my doctor like he was out of his mind. And he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "This child was abused and raped. And, we got to get to the root of the problem. And so, whatever your situation is, recognize that sometimes those outlying situations are masked by, we got to get you sober, clean and sober." And I'm not disregarding any of that.
Yes.
That worked for me. I did go to AA. I was on the little white bus that night, let me tell you. And I went to a meeting every single day while I was in the hospital. And it helped. It helped me understand that the underlying issue, which is why I drank, it would be beneficial for me to get a handle on that addiction. Then I could go ahead and do even better at
Exactly.
at healing my core. getting that little girl back, giggling and laughing at things in life. And it'd been a while. And so my journey has been a blessing, really. And knowing all of the hardships that I've had to go, and they're in the book, Maggie. I mean, the thing that stopped me drinking the day of the accident is in there, and it's horrible. But at the same time, I know God put me on this path with these stepping stones, and I just watch for them. Where am I going today, Lord? And He guides me, and I trust Him in that. It's a big part of what I've been able to accomplish. And here's where I might just interject it just a smidgen. Um, the reason I'm so strong in my faith is when I was 17 and I was in the midst all of this stuff going on. Um, a teacher of mine took me to a Christian student center at the university here where I live, and at that night, I decided I wanted to be baptized. Now, my mama had christened me to protect me until I made my own decision, but I chose to be baptized. They opened up a big church down the road from the student center for me at midnight to be baptized, and on the way, I know I wasn't out of my head because I hadn't been drinking. Um, uh, I saw spiritual beings on the back of the car trying to hold me back from getting to the
Wow.
church. And I can see them as clear as day right now. And then when I was 18 and I'd gotten out of the house and I was living in a basement, which was not the prettiest sight in the world because there was no sunlight coming in and stuff. I was praying and I couldn't express the words out of my mouth what I wanted to say to my God. And all of a sudden I felt this inside of me and it was like, boom, message delivered. And I was like, whoa, is that what it feels like to have the Holy Spirit in you? And I believe it is, Maggie.
Yeah.
So, God's been there every moment and recognizing it, seeing it, loving it, embracing it. My faith is what has carried me to this point today. And I'm just thankful that I'm one of His children.
That is beautiful, 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 Rachel. I'm really choked up here as I listen, and I'm just so forever thankful, with you for him being there every step of the way. And I do want to add here for all our listeners tuning in today. It's a very tough time of the year for some, where some go into a spiral downward. I mean, I've been there some Christmases, and, it really takes you almost on a path if you haven't forgiven, if you haven't really dealt with a lot of stuff during the year, where this can be a very lonely, isolated time of year. And I do want to really honor Rachel and her journey of faith, and also as a gentle reminder for you that you are not alone. You are never alone. Even though you feel alone, you are never alone. God is always there. And Rachel, just thank you so much for joining me today, and for also for your incredible, incredible testimony of not only your resilience, but also God's faithfulness in all the storms and turbulence of life.
Thank you so much for having me, Maggie. There's a form on my website, heisforeverwithme.com, that allows people who want to chat or email me and express their uh, life, whatever it is. There's a form out there. They can get a hold of me. They can contact me. I try to put myself out there. I'm actually considering doing a what do they call it? A session with individuals to talk to me, and let it get out of their system, because that's the most important part to get them started on the road to recovery. And so there's a couple ways you can get a hold of me. Just check out my website, and the link to get my book is out there as well. I also post sometimes on Facebook and Instagram, those same things. I post Chester's blog on my Twitter page and on those Facebook and Instagram as well. So he's got his voice of what he's learned along the way. But I'm honored and I thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful time with you.
Very, very special, Rachel. And please, when you finished with Little Chester's book, please come and join me again on this episode for a next episode.
I would love to. I would absolutely love to. He's got his own story and he can help kids survive whatever they're in. If, if a parent wants to take their kid to the rescue shelter and
Aw,
get him up their best friend, these little guys, like you said, are unconditional love and
100%.
consolation and just relaxing and keeping somebody calm. You know, a kid needs that, and so do adults. So find your little Chester and make their life pleasurable and special. Because when that little guy rolled over for the first time, Maggie,
Aw,
I knew that he had found his dog, and it was such a. I got it on video, and I'm going to post it at some point. But just knowing that he learned to roll over was
yes.
such a special moment for me. I
Aw,
knew he was. I knew he was going to be good. I knew he
that
was going
is
to be just fine. Yeah.
incredible. Rachel, thank you so much. And also for sharing Chester's story. I love, his resilience, his love as well for life, his zest for life, and looking forward to hearing more of his adventures in future as well.
Me too, Maggie. God bless you for the work you're doing. I am, like I said, I'm honored. This is very special for me and a very wonderful Christmas gift. And for those who out there who are struggling, just know you got somebody to talk to if you want to. Email me, and I would love to improve what they think is not going to be as happy as years past, because it can be a very difficult time. Um,
Absolutely.
Get you a Chester, and he's got his own website, chesterschallenges.com. So he's living his dream, I guess.
That is just so cute. Thank you so much. And for everyone who joined today, just know, like I said earlier, you are not alone. And also, if we look at Rachel's story, she started journaling. And this is why I started this whole series, is to remind you that you do have a voice, that you do matter, and that it is important to get whatever is happening to you or what has happened to you out of your system. And writing is just such a beautiful tool. And also, may you be inspired by Rachel's story to not let what happened to you define you, but to use that to fuel you into your purpose work, which is to help others ultimately. Keep on writing and keep on shining.
Just watch me shine.